Welcome to this presentation on motivation, engagement, and learning. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to discuss the differences in motivation based on age, explain windows of opportunity, describe the 3 hardwired motivators, explain demotivators, and finally, apply the information presented on motivation to your role as an EA. This presentation will discuss age and motivation, windows of opportunity, hardwired motivators, demotivators, and their application to the EA role. In order for us to be motivated, we need to understand the relevance of what we are learning. What is relevant and important to us changes in different stages of our lives. As EAs, it is important to ensure that you are adapting activities in ways that are relevant to the individual students you are supporting. Motivation at different ages and stages will be discussed in upcoming slides. These stages are infancy, 1 to 5 years old, 6 to 12 years old, and 13 to 18 years old. In infancy, we are completely dependent on our caregivers to provide an environment to ensure survival, joy, engagement, and connection. Food, social interaction, love, and playing games like peekaboo can help fulfill these needs in an infant. Between the ages of 1 and 5, children are motivated by autonomy, identity, power, and security. In turn, they value learning new things and being able to do new skills independently, but equally important to them is the presence of a caregiver in providing security. From ages 6 to 12, children are motivated by affiliation, being right, autonomy, and belonging. Therefore, social belonging is very important at this age. Preteens want to be invited to events with friends. Additionally, being right is motivating for them. Teenagers are motivated by status, mastery, purpose, and affiliation. It is important for them to find a cause to support or another sense of purpose. They want to be able to find their own identity within a group that they belong to, which will provide them with status. It is important to note that many of the students you support may be at a different developmental stage than is typically associated with their age. For example, you may work with a 12-year-old who is developmentally 4 years old. In turn, that student may be motivated by autonomy, identity, power, and security, as opposed to affiliation, being right, autonomy, and belonging. Windows of opportunity are critical stages of brain development that were discovered by Hubel and Weisel in the 1970s. A window of opportunity is the ideal time for a child to learn something. A baby's brain is born ready to send and receive signals to and from other parts of the body. This happens unconsciously. It is like a switch is turned on, and our capacity to learn something new is made available to us. During this process, special regulatory neurons tell other neurons when to turn on or off. When the genes for particular areas are turned on, the potential for learning in these areas is phenomenal. When the genes are turned off, learning in these areas slows down. In order to develop a trait in full, the brain must receive appropriate stimuli from the environments. If it doesn't, that trait will require much more effort to develop and is at risk for not developing completely. For example, the neurons responsible for vision turn on at 2 to 4 months of age and peak in their synapses at about 8 months. It is no coincidence that at this age, babies begin to engage with their environments more. We need to ensure that the environment offers visual stimuli to strengthen these connections and further develop the neurons responsible for vision. Another example from the reading by Judith Graham for this week is for physical movement. At birth, babies move in an uncontrollable way. Over the first 4 years, the brain builds the necessary circuits for movement, such as crawling, walking, sitting, and grabbing. The first 4 years are the window of opportunity for these actions, the most ideal time given the neurons that are activated in our brains. We can support this development by letting babies explore their environment, let them reach for objects, etc. As you may notice when looking at this chart of various windows of opportunity, vision is one of the only skills that cannot be rewired once critical windows have been missed. The ability to develop motor skills decreases with age. However, skills for emotional intelligence, understanding sounds and music, thinking skills, and even language can be developed at any age to a certain extent. Also note that learning a second language is the only skill that doesn't have a second best window for development, but can still be learned to some significant degree at any age. Regardless of age, there are 3 ways to motivate an individual at any age. Our 3 hardwired motivators are curiosity, anticipation, and relevance. In turn, it is important that you utilize your knowledge of these motivators to shape your support for students. The aforementioned motivators will be discussed in detail on the upcoming slides. Curiosity is a powerful motivator for students. Being curious involves wanting to know more about a particular topic, situation, or problem. When students are curious, they investigate and explore their environments. EAs can support students by asking questions which evoke critical thinking and foster continued curiosity in their students. Additionally, EAs can guide students into coming up with their own questions which are fueled by curiosity. For example, a class might be doing a project where they raise salmon in a tank before releasing them into a stream. An EA could prompt a student to ask questions about the different stages in the salmon life cycle. Fostering anticipation is another key way to motivate your students. Anticipation in the educational context refers to ensuring that your students are looking forward to what is coming next. As an EA, you can evoke anticipation in students by adapting classroom activities by including your students' favorite sports, movies, TV shows, games, or characters. You can also model excitement for the coming lessons. Additionally, having special activities prepared can also create anticipation in students. It is important to recognize routine in preparing students for upcoming activities. In turn, you may have students anticipate a special activity so that they know something different is going to happen, but you don't share all of the details about the activity. As an EA, a special activity that you could offer a student may be to make Play-Doh with a friend for a science lesson, or earning extra Lego time after completing the reading group activity. It is important to collaborate with the classroom teacher and resource teacher when planning special activities. Some special activities may be class-wide, and others could be in the resource room, supported by an EA. If information is not relevant to students, they are less likely to be engaged in the learning process. This is because 3 important neurotransmitters associated with successful learning are released. They are dopamine, norepinephrine, and cortisol. An effective way to have students understand the relevance of what they learn in school is to help them make connections between class activities and their own lives. For example, a student may be struggling to learn to read. As their EA, you recognize this and decide to find an early reader book about Batman, as you know it is the student's favorite superhero. Therefore, reading becomes relevant because the student is able to read more adventures about Batman and villains in Gotham City. Demotivators are also known as triggers and are anything that prevents a student from being motivated about learning a new skill or concept. There are 3 types of demotivators, which include physical demotivators, instructional demotivators, and social demotivators. These will be discussed in detail on the upcoming slides. Physical demotivators include anything in the student's environment that trigger bad memories about an experience. Keep in mind that this does not only include spaces where the student had a poor academic experience. It could also be a place where they experienced a negative social interaction or performed poorly in a soccer game. For example, a student may be triggered every time they enter the music room because they played the wrong note on the recorder, and all of their classmates laughed at them. In turn, the music room has now become a physical demotivator. Instructional demotivators involve students not being engaged in lessons due to a number of factors. These can include an instructor's teaching style, a student being uninterested in a particular subject, or repetition of the same activities class after class. For example, you may be supporting a student who learns best with hands-on experiences, but has science class with a teacher who lectures for most of the block. In turn, this student will become demotivated due to the instructor's teaching style. Another example of instructional demotivation is when a student is attending a class they dislike. If a student doesn't like PE, they will be less motivated and engaged in that course in comparison to their favorite subject, history, where they participate in class discussions. Social demotivators involve a lack of social connections, being teased, and not feeling socially or emotionally safe in the classroom. For example, you may be supporting a student who is socially demotivated because no one wants to be their partner for the upcoming science activity. In turn, this negatively impacts the student's learning because their mind is preoccupied with feeling socially demotivated and unsafe. As an EA, you can adapt activities and provide supports that increase motivation and decrease demotivation. Throughout this presentation, we have discussed the application of these factors to the EA role. In order to create safe learning environments for students, you can help them create positive connections with their environment, teachers, and classmates. For example, if a student you support is physically demotivated by going to the gym with their class, you may find times where the gym is empty to slowly reintroduce the student to the space in a positive light. If a student dislikes an instructor's teaching style, you may work with that teacher to create adaptations which suit the student's learning style. Additionally, if a student is struggling to make social connections, you might facilitate a playgroup with classmates at recess to teach friendship skills. These are all ways that EAs can help prevent demotivation in their students. You should now be able to discuss the differences in motivation based on age, explain windows of opportunity, describe the 3 hardwired motivators, explain demotivators, and apply the information presented on motivation to your role as an EA. This concludes our presentation on motivation, engagement, and learning.